Okay, well, here we go. And this is day 4 of the Drake PS7 power supply from absolute hell. So power supplies aren't supposed to be real complicated. And this one, I guess, isn't. Once you understand the circuitry and go through it 10 million times, I still don't understand the, I think 1473 or whatever regulator chip is in there, how that exactly works. But I went through the circuit enough to figure out that the parts were working correct. I did replace a little current shutoff transistor in here, which I'm not sure is bad or not, but at that point I was going through this thing desperately replacing all sorts of stuff and still no joy. So what finally turned out to be the problem was these 2N5303s that I put in, thinking they were better. They ended up having the base lead of this transistor simply disconnected from everything. I'm not sure how that happened, but the base on these is just gone. So if you tried to command these things with some base bias to make them conduct, they wouldn't conduct. So I guess I started off tonight on that, thinking let's try and make these transistors conduct. So I tried putting some base current into this one, and I couldn't get anything out of this thing as far as 12 volts or anything. So then I took this one out of the equation by pulling out the regulator chip in here, and pin 10 drives this. I just pulled the chip off, so this didn't matter. And then I used like a 60K resistor, and I started feeding these things with some base current, and they didn't do anything. They went up like a few volts and didn't do a thing. They should have like pinned to like 20 volts or so. So they didn't do that. So I thought, well, those are sick. And then I measured them, and I just had nothing on the base. So the base on these just doesn't work anymore. So anyway, I had I had two 5301s hanging around here. So when this thing burned out, 2 of these transistors survived, and 2 were shorted. 2 had collector to emitter shorts, and that was triggering the clamping SCR here would trigger and clamp it so the radio wouldn't go dead with 20 volts going into it. 20 volts would go right in if any of these things go emitter collector short. 20 volts from here. These capacitors, about 20 volts, right smack in the radio, kaboom. So this will quickly short dead the ground and blow the fuse in back of this power supply. That's how the Drake engineers made it work. Anyway, so long story short was I replaced buku in this board and still couldn't get it working. It turns out somehow I killed these new pass transistors, and I didn't realize there was a grounding problem with this board. So I kept trying to measure. This will have about 30 volts on it. This is like a 30 volt power supply. So again, for the nth time, this thing has separate windings on the yellow wires that put about 20 volts AC into this thing on the bottom 2 pins, and there's a bridge rectifier on here. Those will make it put out about 30 volts AC. That is fed into the regulator chip via, I would call it a pass transistor whose duty is to cut off when the current gets high. So that transistor, I replaced it with a I forget, a number 50 or something from the Chicom collection. The one that was in there probably still works. If I could find it, I should probably put it back in, but the thing's working now. So anyway, long story short was I simply disconnected and yanked out these past transistors, and put in what I had. They're still past, the old ones are in here, but they don't have any base connected anymore. And I figured if they did a base emitter short, it'll clamp anyway. So I still have 2 old ones in here. And I'll replace those. I gotta order these from eBay, of course, because you can't get a 5301 down at the Safeway store, or Fry's Electronics is gone. So I will order those. Anyway, this thing is working again. How long will it work? I don't know. I have to heatsink this thing. This is a tip 31. This transistor goes down here. And I lost the little insulator thing, so I can't really shove it on down there. It'll short. So there's a tiny little insulator donut that fell off, and I don't know where it went. So I can't run this thing for very long because this gets way too hot. So, but I can do a demo for you here. So anyway, here's the venerable Drake all connected up again to that power supply. And I really was thinking about getting rid of the Drake. If I wasn't going to buy a new power supply and pay $300 for one of these, that's about what they cost with shipping. I thought, there's no way I'm going to do that. These don't sell for much, really. And I thought, yeah, just fix the power supply. So day number 4, and here's the joy. So you turn this guy on. Radio fires right up. So with those 2 past transistors, I can't go to full current. This thing, I'd probably burn up what's left in here. So I can't really go to full transmit on this thing. But let's see how far I got. So there's the transmit scale. There's about 20 watts. Let's crank it a little more. It'll crowbar eventually here. I don't want to push it because I'm only running 2 past transistors, but yeah, see how it's kind of getting jiggly there? So I can get a little dim there. So I can transmit a little bit, but I'll wait until I get a couple more 5301s in the power supply, and then I'll call it good. So, and I got to get the tip 31 heat sinked. But anyway, it's working again. So I'm pretty darn happy. Anyway, that's my update. I appreciate you watching, and yeah, this thing is getting hot probably. Let's see how bad this thing is. Not so hot, but you want to get it back together correctly. These are getting warm but not hot. When I was transmitting a good bit, they get kind of hot. So if I went key down for a while, there, now I'm key down, throwing a carrier. Oh yeah, wow, that heats them up. Heats them up really good. So yeah. How about this guy? It's not boiling, but it's warm. Anyway, so I'll put this thing back together properly with the insulator for this thing. I'll heat sink it again to the frame and get a couple more 2N5301s and put those in, and hopefully this thing will be done. So it's working again. I'm happy about that. Oh, the other thing was, yeah, here's the ground wire I added. So I just added a ground wire between here and the board. The ground wire soldered right onto the board to the ground. And then there's a little screw in there at the bottom. You see a little screw way in there? That screw would be a nice ground point. See that screw down there? It's not grounded, but I put in solder and it fixed it. So I grounded that. So now I'm grounded there at that screw, and I'm grounded by this wire. And ground loop, who cares? It's good enough. So that's the story. Things working. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Wish me luck tomorrow, okay? I need it. Say a prayer for me. Say a prayer. Thank you.